So what was your question? Can you talk about our immortality? What are we outside of the simulation? Why, as humans with temporary bodies, would we be here when we know everything physical is a temporary illusion? Okay, we need to put these statements you're making into proper perspective. Okay? You say when we know everything physical is a temporary illusion. Okay, Cherokee Soul, I'm going to have to disagree with that because for thousands of years we have not known that. Through the resets, through the cataclysm, through all the times we've been knocked down and get back up, through all the times we've had racial conflicts, all-out racial wars, other different nations taking out other nations. Throughout this whole morass that we call history, we have not known that. We have bought the lie that this is a physical construct in a physical world. What what we have to do is we have to distinguish between what we are now basically waking up to as opposed to how this construct has operated throughout history all this time. There's a huge distinction. The reason why news events, and I've covered this many times in other videos, the reason why things are not making sense, the reason why that all of a sudden in the past 5 or 6 years, it seems like the world is falling apart, and yet the media is toting that everything is normal, even though they're the ones reporting all this stuff. Social media and all these different platforms is just exploding with all this anomalous, weird, bizarre stuff, and yet the world every day continues normally. Sun comes up, moon comes out, moon eclipses every once in a while, no big deal. It goes back to operating the same way it's supposed to. We go to work, we take care of our kids, I feed my dogs. That's it. Life continues on, although we're still bombarded with all this anomalous information. Our own personal data fields, our informed fields are being saturated with all this material, with all this new stuff, but it wasn't a part of our informed fields throughout the past. You have to make the distinction between what we know now as opposed to what we haven't known all this time. Timelines are converging. Reality tunnels are being absorbed. Interference patterns have been created, so a stronger reality tunnel will absorb the lesser ones. And this is, from our perspective, we don't go outside and see reality tunnels collapsing. We don't see quantum collapse. We don't see interference patterns. We don't see palindromic nature and structuring of reality. We don't see the waveforms converging and forming a third ripple effect that turns into its own reality tunnel. We see none of these things. Instead, we perceive the phenomena. We see the change, and the change is reported on mainstream media. There it is. We don't understand it, but we watch it. Man, that's bizarre. Why would they do that? You know, on the next election, we're going to get rid of your dumb ass for doing all this, but they still do it, and they get worse at it, and they do it over and over and over. Reality tunnels are converging. Some are coalescing. Others are being absorbed. Some are being completely annihilated, obliterated, collapsing. Others are being fulfilled while new ones are being born. And it's happening at such a rapid pace, it's introducing chaos into our everyday lives. We've never seen a period like this. All these paradigms, new theory, even our scientific venues are now publishing on a daily basis whole new theories and ideas to make up for the lack of knowledge from last week. Things are just moving at an incredibly dynamic pace, and there's a reason for that. I've told you guys in other videos, Artificial Intelligence X is having a very, very difficult time maintaining control. The simulacrum allows for a tremendous amount of freedom. And errants, people like me and people like you listening to me, we're causing too many problems because we're moving in too many different directions. I would have to think that a benefactor is the one who actually introduced all this chaos, because chaos itself is something AIX can't stand, can't deal with, doesn't like, and will reset the system if necessary, or if it's able to. Because you got to understand, through all my chronographical research, I have noted over and over, I have mentioned this many times, I have shown the math, I have shown so many charts in my videos. The exact times when systemic resets and reboots of the system throughout history can be done are on fixed dates, and not even artificial intelligence X can alter those. It has to maintain whatever control systems it can until that next date. And then when that date comes, it can expend a tremendous amount of energy, take it, do whatever it has to, and we see all the residual effects. We see all the new things that just suddenly appeared in history, all the new inventions. We see the inventions that happened at the exact same year on two different continents by two different cultures that didn't even know each other existed. We see these inventions throughout history, and there was no trade routes back then. There was nothing going on. We see this over and over and over where two or three or four different innovators came up with the same concepts at the same time in history, and the only attachments were cultural. They put their own cultural attachments, and then they publish their material, and 200 or 300 years later, somebody says this guy stole this guy's idea, or this guy stole this guy's idea, or some people even tell the truth. Like one of my favorite historians is Daniel Boorstin. Daniel Boorstin, man, his books are fantastic. Very, very objective, very dry, boring history. But that's what I like. And when I read Boorstin, the Discoverers, his book Discoverers about this thing, he just itemizes all these things throughout history. And it's amazing. It's amazing because it goes to show you the concept that I have tried to convey many times is real. We live in a thought construct. We as spiritual beings, well, first of all, let me backtrack. The only single activity the human spirit has is thought, thinking. Thought is the only thing the spirit can do, but thought is required to move anything in the thought field. And this is what informed fields are. You right now are absorbing in your informed field many informations from me. And it's not just audible. It isn't just the things coming out of my mouth. Some of the things that you're listening to are resonating with other data that's in your thought field, and it brings up images in your mind, and you flash those times. You time travel every day by virtue of imagination. You are not containable. That's your avatar. Your physical avatar houses, it is the central nexus of your spirit. But your spirit is a time traveler. You will move forward and backward in time, and by virtue of imagination, you will acquire data. Through imagination, you can actually meditate and concentrate and move through space-time into the thought field. You can pass through thousands of other people's thought fields and thought constructs. You can alter reality tunnels. You can do all these things with the mind, because the mind is the only link between the spirit and this simulacrum. I wanted to say physical reality, but we all know nothing is really